But it's the fourth point that I think made a dramatic effect. It all has an effect. And that was the high-intensity interval training. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you inside the cell and show you why the high-intensity interval training is so effective. So this is intervals of high intensity, intervals of recovery, and it's done for a cycle. And Doug McGuff, the heart doctor, he suggests 30 seconds high intensity, 90 seconds recovery for a cycle of 6. There's 15 minutes a day. Sorry, but no excuse. If you haven't got 15 minutes, start to write down how long you're on the computer, how long are you on the phone, how long are you on your iPad, how long do you spend watching television. And you will quickly see time to do some adjustments with your time. What I want to show you is what happens inside the cell when you do the high intensity interval training. Now, before I go there, just let me define high intensity. It's anything that gets the heart rate up and the breathing. So Michael and I, we run up hills every day, and our recovery is walking down hills, and we run up the other. So let's have a look at what happens inside the cell. This 20-step path, when we looked at this, when we looked at the cancer, it's a very fast pathway. That's the one that consumes about 15 times the glucose of any other cell. But this 8-step pathway is slow. It's a lot slower. And as a rule, this actually feeds quite well into the 8-step pathway, but when you're doing your high intensity, and when you're getting to the end of your first stage of 30 seconds, your 20-step speeds up, your 8-step speeds up. And there's a rate-setting enzyme in there that will always keep this one faster, this one slower. And because of the higher revs of these pathways, more pyruvate is being made than can be fed in to the 8-step pathway. And so what the body does is it stores that excess pyruvate as lactic acid. We've all heard of lactic acid, haven't we? Yes. Now, I think one of the most incredible parts of this form of exercise is what I'm about to tell you. When you're in recovery time, so it's like those hills that I was going up a couple of weeks ago, because it was high and then only a little bit of recovery, I would stop and then I'd do my stretches. I'd do arm stretches or I'd do leg stretches. So recovery time is far better if you do some slow movement. In recovery time, your liver converts that lactic acid back to pyruvate. So in recovery time, you're burning just as much fuel as when you're running for your life. Because in recovery time, the liver converts the lactic acid back to pyruvate and feeds it in the powerhouse. So two things are happening there. One, you're burning just as much fuel when you're in recovery time. Two, it mops up your lactic acid. So you aren't getting a build-up of lactic acid. And that's one of the reasons why this is such a powerful form of exercise. And you will find that the majority of trainers today are training their athletes with the high-intensity interval training. Because they have found when they train with the high-intensity interval training, they have got an edge. And that's what it's all about in the competition games, in the Olympic Games, isn't it? Having an edge. I was watching the games in Beijing. I was travelling a lot, and every time I travelled, I'd be watching it up on the screen. I love watching it, because don't we love excellence? And it was the first time they were doing a 10-kilometre swim, and it was in this big lake in Beijing. And there was I think it was the American, and I think the Russians were up there, but the favourite was the British girl. But she was about third or fourth. And in the last kilometre, it was just thrilling. She couldn't get past them because of the kicking of their legs. So she had to go sideways, go around them, and she won the race. And I thought, wow, was she training with the high intensity? Because they're giving it everything they've got. But it appears that this just gives an edge. And what I am very thankful to Doug McGuff for, in his book Body by Science, he goes inside the cell and he shows exactly what is happening. But there's more. When you're getting to the end of maybe your third set of high intensity, your glycogen stores have all been used up. Remember, your quick release glucose stores, they're all getting used up. So I think possibly by the end of your third set of high intensity, you've used up your glycogen stores and you're needing more fuel. You've got 3 more to go. And the body sees that. And so it speaks to the pituitary gland to release the human growth hormone. Now, the human growth hormone is very active when we're growing. But when we stop growing, the human growth hormone goes into retirement. I stopped growing at 16, that probably doesn't surprise you. But my son, William, he grew 2 inches from 19 to 22. He was very happy about that. He wondered if he'd ever grow. But when we stop growing, the human growth hormone goes into retirement. But when we're doing the high intensity exercise and the body sees that we need some more fuel, it causes a release of the human growth hormone, which stimulates a release of hormone-sensitive lipase. So what's hormone-sensitive lipase? Lipase is an enzyme that breaks down fat. And underneath the tongue, there's the sublingual glands release lingual lipase. That breaks down saturated fat. Our liver releases bile that breaks down fat. And the pancreas releases pancreatic lipase, breaks down the polyunsaturated fats. So lipase is your fat-splitting enzyme. So why does the human growth hormone release hormone-sensitive lipase? To release the fat stores. The human growth hormone also stops the body from burning glucose as fuel and become a fat burner. We know why it becomes a fat burner, because remember what fat's going to do? It's going to give more than twice the units of energy compared to glucose. And we're running for our life. This is a crisis. The human growth hormone also increases the body's ability to utilise protein. This week we've looked at the importance of eating sufficient protein. I find that people that are on this high carbohydrate diet, they're often protein deficient. Protein's an essential nutrient. We've looked at the importance of eating sufficient protein. We've looked at the importance of not drinking with your meals, because that waters down the enzymes that break down your protein. Now we're looking at another part, and that is when you implement the high-intensity interval training, causing a release of the human growth hormone, it increases the body's ability to utilise the protein. There's more. The human growth hormone increases the circulation of the blood to the skin. Did you know that the movie stars pay $1,000 a week for this? Because their profession is dependent on them looking good. Circulation of the blood to the skin, that slows down the wrinkles, slows down ageing. Well, I'm offering it to you cut price today. 15 minutes of high-intensity interval training a day will cause a release of the human growth hormone, which will remain active for 24 hours. What a bargain.